How do you determine if you have a legal parcel in California? It's important that you have a legal parcel. If you have an illegal parcel, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen occasionally. If you have a parcel that was created illegally, it can cause you some problems. So you want to know before you make a large investment decision based on a chunk of real estate if the parcel or parcels were legally created that you're going to buy. So just to kind of review, I've talked about this in some other videos, but what is a legal parcel? A legal parcel was, number one, lawfully created. Number two, according to the rules in place at the time of creation. And finally, number three, wasn't merged after the fact. Okay, so you need all three of those things. You need lawfully created, you need under the rules at the time of the creation, and you need not lawfully merged after the fact. Okay, so you need all three of those. So let's talk about them for a minute. So what do we mean by lawfully created? Well, in California we mean it was either created by a deed or by a subdivision, right? A parcel map or a subdivision map. That's the two ways we have in California to create parcels. That's it. Those are the only two ways. So you need to figure out which one was used, and there's different requirements depending on how you do that. And it all starts with the current deed, right? So you need a private land planner, land surveyor, land attorney to look at the current deed and figure out, hey, does this look like it was created by a subdivision or does it look like it was created by deed? Most of the time you can get a good idea of that just by what's in the current land description for the current deed. But some other things might be needed to really answer that question. You might have to get a chain of title. You might have to run a chain of survey, what we call a chain of survey. So depending on the parcel, that can be a fair amount of work. But that's the only way to really know for sure that you have a legal parcel. You got to kind of travel back in time through the land records and see how things were done. So that's the first part. Figure out, was it lawfully created either by deed or subdivision map, and which one was it? The second thing is you got to figure out, was it lawfully created under the rules in place at the time? Okay, what rules am I talking about? So I'm talking about land use regulations, zoning is one, and then I'm also talking about the rules in place at the time for subdividing property. So in California, in the old days, we used to let you just create property by deed, but we don't do that for quite a long time in California. Over 100 years, we've required you to have a subdivision map, and there's a whole set of rules for how subdivision maps have to work. We call it the Subdivision Map Act. And so you need to know, did the parcel follow the rules at the time for new parcels? If it was a subdivision map, was the subdivision map compliant with the rules? If it was created by deed, were those rules followed? Did it comply with the current land use regulations at the time? Because if the answer to either of those questions is no, you could potentially have an illegal parcel. Now, it can be cured, it can be fixed, but it's not easy and it costs money, so you want to know that. Okay, and then the last part of a legal parcel, that definition of a legal parcel, is once it was created, you got to make sure it wasn't lawfully merged after the fact, because mergers undo the creation of a parcel, right? You take two separate parcels, you merge them into one. So how do parcels get merged? Parcels get merged in primarily two ways. One is by some action of the landowner, right? So you as a landowner can go to your local jurisdiction and ask for a merger. There's usually a process to have that done. And you might say, why would anybody ever do that? Well, there's lots of reasons. Sometimes you merge parcels because you don't want to put a building over a property line. Sometimes you merge parcels because you have what we call a non-conforming parcel. It doesn't meet the minimum area in the zoning, so you want to merge it with a parcel next door so it meets those requirements. So a landowner can initiate that action. I was just looking at an example here last week of a couple old ag parcels down in Los Banos. They were merged on a parcel map. Okay, so that can happen through landowner action. The other way is sometimes local agencies will merge parcels through ordinance. Now there are some restrictions on when they get to do that, and if they want to do that, there's a certain set of processes they have to follow. But basically, counties and cities can say, hey, if your parcels don't meet this set of land use regulations, we're going to automatically merge them on this date unless you come and file an appeal. Right? And that's been done in multiple places throughout, the last 50 years in California. That's been done. And so even if your parcel was legally created, if it was automatically merged, it's what we call an automatic merger. If it was automatically merged through one of those ordinances, then you no longer have a lawfully created parcel, right? So, now, let me tell you what hangs people up a lot is they bring me a tax assessor map and they say, well, the tax assessor map shows that I have 3 parcels, so I should have 3 parcels. And that's not true. So, tax assessor maps are cartoons for tax assessment purposes. They are a clue to what's going on, but they are not definitive. And that can go either way. So a landowner can say, well, I have 3 APNs, I must have 3 legal parcels, and that's not necessarily true. And a local, land use planner, regulator at a local county or city might say, well, you only have 1 APN, so you only have 1 legal parcel, not 3. And that might not be true either. So the question is not simple enough to just answer by looking at the tax assessor map. Do I have a legal parcel? You can't just look at the tax assessor map and answer that question, right? Some deeper analysis is required, and you probably need help to do that. You need to work with a good land planner, private land planner, or land surveyor, or a land attorney, maybe to get an answer to that question. So if you're spending a big chunk of dough on some real estate, you would like to know, are the parcels you buy legal or illegal? And that's something that a good land surveyor can help you answer.